Stephen A., I could actually argue that it hurts the game more if they had given her a roster spot over someone more deserving.
So go ahead and argue it.
That's exactly what I'm saying, because I think it makes a mockery of the women's game. If the focus on, okay, now we just have to have people because of marketing and their attention, and they're not as talented, and we're not putting the best team out there.
What did you just say?
They're not as talented.
Say it again to my face.
And they're not as talented.
Come again?
And they're not as talented.
Several months later.
Now it's crickets.
No one denied the fact that she's a star and she couldn't play. It was just that it takes.
Y'all were denying it, Molly. Don't do that.
And
don't do that, Molly.
Shannon, what are you saying? People didn't think that Cailtin Clark was talented?
I know that ain't who I think it is.
If you're not a big fan of one Cailtin Clark the past couple of games, they've been really rough on you. As Clark every single night puts up 25 to 30 points, 10 to 12 dimes, and most importantly, her team is winning.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Now, the unfortunate thing for Clark when it comes to the media, people like Molly Cam on First Take, they move the goalpost every single day. And like you saw in that intro, months ago Molly Cam said Clark was, quote, not as talented, and her being on Team USA was a mockery of the sport. Now, Molly Cam right there, she was confident, she had conviction, she was really dead set against Clark being on Team USA. Now, fast forward a month and a half, Molly Cam moves the goalpost per usual, as now all of a sudden, nobody doubted Clark, her talent, her skill, her overall ability, when Molly Cam a month prior was doing just that. For a lot of these female analysts, for one reason or another, they want Cailtin Clark to fail at every single turn. As even looking at her college days, Molly Cam back then was saying someone like Paige Bueckers, if she was healthy, would diminish Clark and her overall stardom.
If Paige Bueckers didn't basically miss 2 seasons, I don't know if we'd be talking about Cailtin Clark the way we are now. And that's facts, Stephen A.
The Rock says, know your role and shut your...
Now, looking back at Molly's USA comments, saying Clark at the time wasn't as talented, as skilled, even then, was a false statement, as Clark, pre the selection, played 23 games, 17 points, 8 assists, 6 boards, nearly 2 steals, on great shooting. At that point, Clark in the entire league was first in assists, top 15 in scoring, top 5 in threes made, and the best player on her team. And despite that, was passed over for really political reasons that had nothing to do with basketball. As looking at their roster, someone like Chelsea Gray, who's a decent player, was put on the roster in place of Clark. And prior to selection, she had only played 9 total games. And in those games, I wouldn't say was lighting it up, averaging 8 points per game, 5 assists, 3 boards, on decent shooting. So Chelsea Gray, who's 32 years old, injury prone, coming off injury, was put on the roster ahead of Clark. Kinda suspect. Then someone like Taurasi, who's 75 years old, who's played in like 12 Olympics, for some reason, had to be on this team. And her numbers pre-selection compared to Clark, again Cailtin, better across the board. Clark being left off the team 100% was a political move for their optics, as they didn't want Clark saving their roster or in the face of their team, despite being a rookie. And for a lot of these players to talk about growing the game, making the game more popular, Clark on this team would have done wonders for their cause. But of course, Clark, not exactly the fan favorite of these players, coaches, or the media.
And Team USA is not worried about marketing. It's not their job to grow the WNBA.
It's unfair to the women of this league, to your point, who have laid the groundwork for Cailtin Clark to come in and now take it to the next level.
Now is the time to stick to what you know and what you've always done, which means putting the best team together. Now is not the time for that. And she would only have 7 practices with this team, Stephen A.
Who talk about women's sports more than First Take?
Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
Now, that bundle of clips right there, kind of the summer of the WNBA, has been unsuccessful for close to 25 years. As even with Clark coming to prominence, they're still complaining, still whining about past players not getting their due. And look, here's the harsh reality. Those past players, past legends, they may have been great players, but what they did for the sport, not even comparable and close to what Clark has done in only 1 season. And what a lot of these so-called analysts don't understand is the promotion of a sport without interest means absolutely nothing. If there isn't a reason to tune in, people aren't going to tune in. If there isn't a player or a team that is worth watching, all the promotion in the world does nothing. And looking at someone like Cheryl Swoops, kind of saying the exact same thing. The WNBA, they didn't need saving, they just needed promotion. That right there is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. This league prior to Clark had gotten tons of promotion really post 2016, and despite that their ratings or attendance had gone up marginally. They've been getting promotion on NBA games, NBA players, social media, mainstream networks, all the time. And not once in that time period the league skyrocketed like it has with Cailtin Clark. So yes, Cheryl Swoops your league, it did need saving in the worst type of way. And unfortunately for you, the person who saved the league was Cailtin Clark.
Who talk about women's sports more than First Take?
Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
Now look, I'm not the biggest fan of Stephen A. Smith, but those comments right there are completely out of bounds. As Stephen A. by himself couldn't have saved this league if he tried. And when it comes to First Take, they don't even talk baseball or hockey, which are major sports in America. You know what they're not going to talk about? The WNBA, at least not prior to Cailtin Clark. Because of course Clark gets ratings, gets views, and has people invested in the sport and her team. If back in 2017-2018, they were talking WNBA, you know what would have happened? Click, turn off, change channel, the ratings would plummet. Like I said earlier, promotion only does so much if your product is garbage. And let's make one thing very clear right now, Cailtin Clark isn't popular because of her skin color or anything like that. Why she's popular is her playstyle, her flash, and being basically female Pistol Pete. Players like A'ja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Brittany Griner, they're Hall of Fame players, first ballot, no doubt. But those players, they're like the big man equivalent of someone like Kareem. Kareem's game, he was talented and skilled. Was he box office must-see TV? No, not really. And for the majority of his career prior to Magic, his NBA was struggling. What it took was Magic and Bird to uplift Kareem and really save his dying league. The same with A'ja Wilson and Brianna Stewart. They're great players at this point, still better than Clark. But Clark is box office must-see TV, a much more entertaining player. And one last thing I do want to touch on is Clark post the USA snub. As in 11 games her team has gone 9-2, and individually, she's balled out and been fantastic. 23 points, 10 assists, 5 boards, 1 steal on much improved shooting. Scoring-wise, Clark ranks 3rd in the league, only behind Mitchell and Wilson. Assist-wise, first by a mile at over 3 per game. And in terms of long-range shooting, ranks 1st in made threes at 37 during the span. If Clark's doing this as a rookie at 22 years old, can you imagine a year from now, 2 years from now, when she's in her prime at her peak and her game is complete and well-rounded? Cailtin Clark's ceiling quite literally is the best player of all time. That's not hyperbole, conjecture, that's simply what it is. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.